In Portland, demonstrators have taken to protesting in large animal costumes because the furries are going to help get us out from fascism.
They might.
I know. Like the Portland frog was pepper sprayed, and now there is a Portland chicken and cows. The Week has an absolutely incredible interview with one of the protesters, which is worth reading in full. I just want to highlight a few lines where the protester, the Portland chicken, says, quote, "What they rely on is fear. So by coming out in an absurdist manner, it says that we're actually not that afraid. It also dismantles their narrative a little bit when they try to describe the situation as war-torn, and Kristi Noem is up on the balcony staring over the Antifa army. And it's like 8 journalists and 5 protesters, and one of them is in a chicken suit, right? Kind of undermines the narrative."
Yes. So amen. More, animal suits of all stripes. Governor Pritzker also got in on the absurdity. He made this appearance on Kimmel.
We also got a very special report filed by J.B. Pritzker, the governor of Illinois. This is J.B. Pritzker reporting from war-torn Chicago. As you can see, there's utter mayhem and chaos on the ground. It's quite disturbing. The Milwaukee Brewers have come in to attack our Chicago Cubs. We've seen people being forced to eat hot dogs with ketchup on them. And our deep dish pizza, has gone shallow. So it's a challenge to survive here in the city of Chicago, but there's no hellscape that I'd rather be in.
Part of the fight in Oregon and Illinois is, as Lieutenant Governor Juliana Stratton talked about in our live show, is about taking the fight to the courts. And that includes a case challenging ICE's treatment of protesters and journalists, which has included firing pepper balls, assaulting protesters and journalists, arresting them, shooting journalists with less lethal items in the head and the groin, and pointing assault rifles at civilians who are merely exercising their rights. And a federal court issued a temporary restraining order finding that ICE's conduct likely violated the First Amendment. The judge highlighted ICE's attacks against a reverend who was protesting at a detention facility through prayer, right? And concluded that ICE was in violation of basically the whole First Amendment. Too sweet.
Just want to briefly side note, the reverend or clergyman they pelted in the face, which was captured in photographs, is like straight out of season 2 of Fleabag, if you know what I mean. He's a hottie.
I did know what you meant.
Is it Ralph DeBrickassart kind of priest? That kind of priest?
I couldn't get a good enough look to say for sure. I will say that he did have kind of like hipster jeans on, yes, which made me think that he isn't a real enough man of faith for them to actually respect by not pepper spraying in the face, which is what they did to him.
Wait till they find out that John the Baptist wore skinny jeans.
He was famously woke, Melissa.
Yes. Lost his head.
Yes. So the judge in the Illinois case brought by a bunch of private plaintiffs, there's also a case brought by the attorney general, required ICE to stop dispersing and threatening or using force against people they should reasonably know are journalists without probable cause of a crime. It also limits their ability to use riot control weapons on individuals who are not posing immediate threats. And it requires ICE, this is, I think, really important, to have visible identification.
And we should say that basically within 24, 48 hours of that order, it already looks like they might be violating this. There's a video now circulating of an arrest of a journalist in Chicago.
Chicago and Illinois have also challenged Trump's deployment of the National Guard. So a district court declined to issue a temporary restraining order at the initial hearing, but that was in part because of the volume of evidence that had been introduced and because the court wanted to have the administration respond to that evidence. Then, at a subsequent hearing later last week, the judge did grant the TRO that the city and state had requested, finding that the deployment of the Guard was, in fact, unlawful. And the judge said it came down to a credibility determination. So this is a judge faced with voluminous evidence of the federal government's wrongdoing was like, yep, looks like wrongdoing. Credibility determination.
And at the hearing explaining the order, the judge said, quote, "I simply cannot credit the Trump administration's declarations to the extent they contradict state and local law enforcement. DHS's perception of events are simply unreliable."
And the judge continued, quote, "Deportations are up, arrests are up, the courthouse remains open and always has. Federal laws are being executed. They're also being broken as they have been since the beginning of time." Just a refreshing breath of reason.
And during the oral argument about whether to grant the restraining order, the judge suggested that the federal government's definition of rebellion would mean that literally all nonviolent protests could be considered evidence of rebellion, and asked the department if that was their argument, to which the federal government said, the president has determined there is a danger of rebellion and you must defer to that finding. Basically, yes. So seems like the DOJ could declare giant furries and inflatable animals like the Portland frog, which if you haven't watched the videos, you should, and the Portland chicken to be a rebellion.
You will respect my authority.
Thanks, Carmen.
Welcome. One other piece of news out of the Windy City in Illinois. When we were there 2 weekends ago, there were initial reports of ICE agents shooting a woman. At the time, the story was developing and the facts were not clear, so we didn't cover it. But ICE initially said that the woman had boxed in ICE agents with her car. Thanks to the Chicago Sun-Times, again, hooray for local journalism, there are now reports that the body cam video actually debunks this account and indicates that ICE lied. So based on this body cam video evidence, the woman didn't box ICE in or drive at them with her car. And instead, the video shows an officer saying, "Do something, bitch," before pulling over and shooting the woman 5 times.
Her lawyer says that the woman, who the federal government subsequently indicted, had 7 holes in her, and a judge denied the government's request to detain her, along with one other individual the government has indicted. And the upshot here is ICE lies. And it is important for people to know that, especially as attempted prosecutions of people for allegedly assaulting ICE officers or obstructing ICE continue.
So, in case you are not aware, this upcoming weekend on October 18th, there are No Kings protests planned in a bunch of places. You can easily find yours in whatever city you live in or are going to be in. I'm planning to be there. We definitely encourage you to be aware, be safe. Republican leadership already seems to be trying to gin up possible confrontations with peaceful protesters. Here is how Speaker of the House Mike Johnson spoke about the No Kings rally that is being planned for D.C.
We're so angry about it. I mean, I'm a very patient guy, but I have had it with these people. They're playing games with real people's lives. The theory we have right now, they have a Hate America rally that's scheduled for October 18th on the National Mall. It's all the pro-Hamas wing and the Antifa people. They're all coming out.
As we have said, these kinds of protests are incredibly meaningful and important. It can be really empowering to realize there are a lot of people who, like all of us, recognize that we cannot continue to be on this path and be a country with democracy and the rule of law. And having the Speaker of the House tell Fox that peaceful demonstrations are gathering of organizations that the administration has described as violent terrorists is just another effort to escalate and another effort to thwart dissent.